I stood on the cracked earth of my worthless inheritance, watching my family's luxury cars kick up dust as they drove away from what they considered the worst piece of the Anderson estate. 5,000 acres of Nevada desert. The land my grandfather had mysteriously insisted on keeping until his death. At least Julia got the Lake Tahoe mansion, my sister Sophia's voice echoed in my mind. And Michael got the San Francisco properties. But you, Sarah? You got exactly what you deserve. I pulled out my satellite phone, the only device that worked out here, and checked the latest geological survey data. 3 years of secret research funded by my tech company earnings was about to pay off. Enjoy your sandbox, Dad had sneered, tossing me the deed. Maybe you can build little castles while your siblings manage real estate. The memory made me smile as I watched their dust trails disappear. They had no idea that I'd specifically requested this land in grandfather's will, or that I'd been studying his old journals for years. My phone buzzed, preliminary drilling results incoming. Ms. Anderson? My geological team leader's voice crackled through. You need to see this data immediately. I opened my laptop, sheltering the screen from the desert sun. The 3D imaging maps loaded, showing what lay beneath this supposedly worthless land. "My God," I whispered, staring at the results. Grandfather was right. It's the largest oil reserve discovered in the last 50 years, the geologist confirmed. Conservative estimates value it at. Ms. Anderson, you might want to sit down. I was already sitting, perched on a rock where my grandfather used to tell me stories about the land's potential. Stories my family had dismissed as an old man's fantasies. The mineral rights? I asked, though I already knew the answer. All included in your deed. Your grandfather never sold them despite numerous offers. I thought about the morning's inheritance meeting. Sarah gets the desert property, the lawyer had announced. Perfect, Michael had laughed. She can't even manage a real business, might as well give her sand. If they'd bothered to check, they'd have known about my successful tech company, operating under a different name. The company that had funded these surveys. My phone buzzed again. Major energy companies requesting urgent meetings. Begin Protocol Omega, I instructed my team. And call the family lawyer. It's time they learned what grandfather really left me. I walked to the center of my land, where a single oil derrick stood ready, positioned exactly where grandfather's journals had suggested. All those years of him teaching me geology, showing me maps, explaining rock formations, while my siblings were busy counting their future properties. Sarah's always been the family disappointment, Dad had declared this morning. This worthless land suits her. My satellite phone rang again. Ms. Anderson? The stock exchange needs to halt trading on your company when the announcement goes public. The projected value. Do it, I authorized. And send cars to collect my family. They'll want to be here for this. An hour later, dust clouds appeared on the horizon. Multiple black SUVs approached. My family returning, summoned by urgent calls from their financial advisors. I stood calmly, watching their expressions as they stepped out into the desert heat. Gone was their morning smugness, replaced by confused panic. What's going on? Dad demanded. Our brokers are going crazy about this land. The ground trembled slightly as the test drill struck exactly what grandfather had predicted. Right on schedule. Sarah, Sophia's voice shook. Why are there oil company executives flying in? I pointed to the approaching helicopters. Because, dear sister, they're about to start a bidding war. Turns out this sandbox isn't so worthless after all. You knew, Michael whispered, finally understanding. When you requested this specific property in the will. Grandfather taught me well, I confirmed, pulling out his old journals. While you were busy mocking his desert obsession, he was teaching me about geological formations, about oil deposits, about patience. But we can contest the will, Dad sputtered. This land should be divided. Actually, I smiled, hearing more helicopters approach. Grandfather left very specific instructions. Instructions you never bothered to read because you thought this land was worthless. My phone lit up with the final confirmation. Largest oil deposit in US history confirmed. Estimated value, $8.7 billion. That's impossible, Sophia grabbed her phone, checking news alerts. This morning you were just... The family disappointment? I finished for her. Amazing what can hide under worthless desert, isn't it? The first oil company executives were walking toward us, contracts ready. Behind them, news helicopters circled, capturing the moment when the worthless Anderson Desert revealed its true value. Sarah, Dad stepped forward, his voice taking on a desperate negotiating tone. We're family. Surely we can discuss. Like you discussed this morning? I cut him off. When you laughed about my sandbox? The ground trembled again as more test drills struck black gold. Above us, the news helicopters captured it all. The gushing oil, the gathering executives, and my family's faces as they realized what they'd given away. I checked my watch. The stock exchange would open in exactly 1 hour. Time for the real show to begin. The desert sun climbed higher as my family watched, helpless, while oil company executives presented their bids. Each offer was higher than the last, their desperation palpable as they realized the magnitude of what lay beneath my worthless inheritance. $8 billion from ExxonMobil, my assistant Emma announced. $9 billion from Shell, she continued. $10 billion from Chevron. Stop, Dad stepped forward, sweat beading on his forehead. Sarah, you can't make these decisions without family consultation. I held up my hand, silencing him as another test well struck oil. The black gold spurted into the desert air, a magnificent sight against the cloudless sky. Actually, I pulled out my grandfather's journal. I can. And I will. I opened to a marked page. Grandfather left very specific instructions about this land's management. What instructions? Michael demanded, his real estate developer instincts finally kicking in. I nodded to Emma, who activated the holographic displays I'd had installed around the property. Grandfather's handwritten notes appeared in the air, alongside geological surveys dating back 30 years. To my granddaughter Sarah, I read aloud, who alone understood the value of looking beneath the surface. While others saw worthless desert, she saw potential. The mineral rights, oil rights, and all associated resources are hers alone to manage. Sophia grabbed the journal, her designer hands trembling. This is dated 3 years ago. You've been planning this. Planning. I laughed softly. I've been studying, Bernie, preparing. While you were busy mocking my inability to manage real assets, I was managing the most valuable asset in the family portfolio. The screens showed live news coverage. Largest oil discovery in U.S. history. Anderson Desert yields billion-barrel reserve. Energy companies in bidding war over Nevada discovery. But the family trust, Dad tried again. All major assets must be. Read subsection 12. I cut him off, displaying the trust documents. Grandfather modified it 3 years ago. This land and everything beneath it is exempt from family oversight. My phone buzzed continuously with new offers. Saudi Aramco, $12 billion. BP, $13 billion. Chinese National Petroleum, $15 billion. You know what's interesting? I turned to my siblings. This morning you couldn't wait to give me this worthless land. Now, I gestured to the gathering of global oil executives. You're realizing what grandfather knew all along. We're still your family, Michael said, desperation creeping into his voice. That must count for family. I pressed a button, and the screens showed footage from this morning's inheritance meeting. Their mocking laughter, their dismissive comments, their absolute certainty that they'd received the valuable properties. The Lake Tahoe mansion you're so proud of, Sophia? I smiled. Worth about 1 day's production from this oil field. And my San Francisco properties? Michael whispered. About 12 hours of oil revenue. I checked the latest production estimates. Maybe less. Dad stepped forward, switching to his business negotiation mode. Sarah, let's discuss this reasonably. With proper family management. Like how you managed to dismiss everything grandfather taught me. I questioned. How you laughed at our geology lessons. Called them a waste of time. The screens shifted to show my new corporate structure. Anderson Energy Corporation with me as CEO and majority shareholder. While you were busy underestimating me, I continued, I was building an energy empire. Those tech companies you mocked? Front organizations for oil exploration technology. More helicopters approached, news teams from every major network, eager to interview the woman who discovered America's largest oil reserve. Ms. Anderson, Emma appeared. The stock exchange opens in 5 minutes. Your company's IPO will make me one of the richest women in the world, I completed, watching my family's faces. Amazing what can happen in a day, isn't it? From family disappointment to energy mogul. Please, Sophia tried one last time. We can work together. Like you worked to belittle every achievement I've ever had? I turned to the gathering executives. Gentlemen, shall we begin the formal bidding? As the oil companies presented their final offers, I watched my family's realization dawn. Their Lake Tahoe mansion, their San Francisco properties, their entire inheritance combined wouldn't equal 1% of my worthless desert's value. Oh, and Dad, I called as security prepared to escort them to the periphery of MY property. About managing real assets. I pointed to another oil well striking black gold. I think I'm doing just fine. The stock exchange opening bell rang across the desert, and Anderson Energy Corporation's value soared. On the screens, my family watched their social and financial standing transform in real time. The disappointment had just become the dynasty. And this was only the beginning. 1 month after the discovery, I sat in my new headquarters, a stunning glass tower rising from the desert landscape. The worthless land had transformed into an energy empire, with oil derricks stretching to the horizon like a modern army. Ms. Anderson, Emma entered. Your family is here for the first shareholders' meeting. I smiled, adjusting my Tom Ford suit, quite different from the dusty field clothes they'd last seen me in. Let them wait in the lobby for 20 minutes. Let them feel what it's like to be dismissed. When they finally entered my office, the change was dramatic. Gone were their designer clothes and superior attitudes, replaced by desperate attempts at business attire and humbled expressions. Sarah, Dad began, clutching his briefcase. We've been reviewing the quarterly reports. Fascinating reading, isn't it? I interrupted, activating the wall-to-wall screens. They displayed real-time data from my oil empire. Production rates, stock prices, global expansion plans. The company value, Michael whispered, staring at the numbers. It's more than all other family assets combined. Times 50, I corrected, bringing up the comparative charts. Your Lake Tahoe mansion, Sophia? My company makes its value every 3 hours. The screens shifted to show global news coverage. Anderson Energy revolutionizes oil industry. Desert discovery makes Sarah Anderson world's youngest oil baroness. Families, worthless land yields trillion-dollar empire. You've done amazingly, Dad attempted flattery. Surely now we can discuss family involvement. Like you discussed my involvement when you thought this was worthless desert? I pressed a button, replaying their mocking comments from Inheritance Day. Or when you laughed at grandfather teaching me geology? Sophia stepped forward, desperation evident. We were wrong, Sarah. So wrong. But we're still family. Family. I stood, walking to the window overlooking MY Empire. Let's talk about family. About how you called me the disappointment. About how you celebrated getting the valuable properties. The screens showed their past dismissals alongside current headlines about my success. The contrast was poetic. However, I turned back. I did learn something valuable from you all. What's that? Michael asked hopefully. The importance of proper asset management. I smiled, pressing another button. Documents appeared on their tablets. So let's discuss your new positions. Positions. Dad's voice cracked. Option 1. Sell your inheritance properties to my company at market rate. Use the money to buy shares, becoming minor stockholders. Minor. Sophia looked stricken. Very minor, I confirmed. Option 2. Join the company at entry-level positions. Learn the energy business from the ground up. Prove your worth based on merit, not family names. Entry-level. Dad sputtered. But our experience. In what? Mocking desert property? Dismissing geological surveys. I brought up their business records. Your combined net worth is less than what my company makes before lunch. The screens showed my newest acquisitions. Competing energy companies, global resources, technological innovations. You have 24 hours to decide, I stated, turning back to my empire's command center. Oh, and one more thing. They looked up, hope flickering briefly. Grandfather's old journals? I picked up the worn books. He wrote about this day. about how the desert would reveal its treasure to the one person who saw its value. He knew. Michael whispered. He knew everything, I confirmed, including how you'd all react to my inheritance. It was his final test, seeing who could look beneath the surface. Dad stepped forward one last time. Sarah, please. We can be a family again. We are family, I cut him off. Just not the kind you expected. I'm not the disappointing daughter anymore. I'm the CEO who controls your financial future. The screens showed another oil well striking black gold, adding billions to my company's value. You can take those 24 hours, I continued, to decide if you want to be part of this empire. But remember, the desert taught me patience. And unlike some, I know the true value of what lies beneath the surface. As security prepared to escort them out, I called after them. Oh, and Dad? About that sandbox comment. He turned back, face ashen. I did build castles, I smiled. They're just made of oil instead of sand. Later that evening, I stood on my office balcony, watching the sun set over my oil fields. The derricks pumped steadily, each motion adding to my fortune. My phone buzzed with updates. Asterisk stock price up 300%. Asterisk 3 more oil deposits discovered. Asterisk global energy markets transforming. Asterisk family properties values plummeting. But the most significant message was from grandfather's old lawyer. He would be proud. You saw what they couldn't. That true value isn't always visible on the surface. I smiled, remembering all those days in the desert with grandfather, learning what my family dismissed as worthless knowledge. Now they understood. Sometimes the greatest treasures are hidden beneath worthless sand.